hope you all grab a coffee and that you have a nice morning. First, I want to thank organizers for inviting me to speak here, and I think they are doing an amazing job. So thank you for that, and also thank to the all sponsors for making this event possible. So my name is Peric-Mazar. I'm from Split, Croatia. I'm the CEO of Locastic. Locastic is software development agency from Croatia. I'm also co-founder of a few events in Croatia, including a monthly event that we call Tunnel Meetup, which is happening each month in our office, and we are bringing foreign speakers and they are giving talks inside our office. Regarding my professional career, I started 10 years ago developing web applications, and in 2011 I started my first company. Mostly I'm doing backend development, PHP, and that includes a lot of years with Symfony, and that's the topic of my talk today. Just a few words about my company. As I already stated, we are based in Croatia. Split, we are not a big company, we are a small company, 22 persons at the moment. We are doing a lot of consulting for clients from more parts of the world, including some telecom operators, banks, and things like that. This is just some of our works. If you want to see more, visit website, and that's it. So, regarding the Symfony, before I start, I want to see who is using Symfony any version here. Okay, cool. Version 4. Okay, this is nice. I did this talk 3 months ago in Germany, and like I see here, like 30–35% of the hands for Symfony 4, which is very nice, because like 3 months ago it was like 5%, which was like, what is happening here? Why you are not using this amazing framework? So I started as PHP developer, starting building some very simple scripts like post, get, forms handler, etc. during my college. After that, I started doing first projects, and I built some kind of my own framework. After a while, it took so much time to maintain that. That was like collection of the class that had some kind of the routing, some kind of database layer, and that worked very well at the beginning. Of course, after a while, I wanted to search for something more. I wanted to start using some serious framework, let's call it in that way. So I did the research, and Symfony 2 was announced in that period, but I wanted to take some projects, so I started actually first with Symfony 1.4. Back in that time, web was different. I hope, like, is there someone who is like in industry for 6, 7, 8 years? So you probably notice, that industry is changing, the web is changing. Previously, we had full-stack frameworks which had front-end, back-end side, just HTML, some jQuery things and things like that. And that was Symfony 1.4. It was full-stack monolithic framework. The only that you had a model which was shared between front-end and back-end application, and that worked. You had some admin generator in console which was packed with Symfony inside, and that worked back in that time. Some big sites were built on a Symfony 1.4. So yeah, after Symfony 1.4, we moved to Symfony 2. And I cannot even say that is the same framework. If you try to upgrade from Symfony 1.4 to Symfony 2, that's not possible. You need to rewrite your application. Idea behind the Symfony 2 was to have a set of reusable components so that you can actually build your own framework for your project and that you can use it for your certain use case. That was not easy. To be honest, like, I don't know who did that, and probably all the projects end up to using standard edition of Symfony. Also, we have some distributions which didn't work well also, and that was like good idea. I cannot say it was good in the practice. Of course, I know a few companies, I know a few people who build their own frameworks on the top of Symfony components, which was perfectly okay, but still that was not easy job because you still were reinventing the wheel. And of course, then we moved to Symfony 3. And that was the most boring edition of the Symfony ever. It was the slowest one. It was only bridge from the 2 to version 4. And actually nothing happens there. Framework improved a little bit. We got some new components. We got auto wiring. I will talk a little bit about that. And the only thing between 2 and 3 was we celebrate 10 years of the Symfony, and 10 years is an amazing period for framework. Today is even almost 15, something like that. And finally, we reached the Symfony version 4. That changed a lot. Symfony 4 is a modern framework that actually allow us to build small applications and big applications. We can take the framework and we can adjust it in any way we want. And I think that's the most important thing, and I will talk a lot about composition today. Symfony 4 is following the trend of modern web applications. You can use it for REST API, you can use it as monolithic applications, you can use it for microservices, you can use it whatever you want. It's very fast, it's very, I will say, easy to use. So let's sum up this introduction. So as you can see, Symfony 3.0 plus Symfony, it's the same as Symfony 2.8 minus some deprecated feature, okay? And Symfony 4 is different. Symfony 4 is Symfony 3.4 minus deprecate feature, but the most important thing is there is a new way for building the web applications. So what we could do better, what we actually did better was, first thing you remember, if you start with Symfony 2 and if you tried ever, for example, remove the form component, that was like not very easy experience. So basically installing bundles, removing bundles was too cumbersome. It was like repeating yourself all the time. I already mentioned standard edition was not good enough. And we always had a feeling that we have a bunch of code inside our code base that we are basically not using, and that was true. You have like 75, maybe 80 components inside standard edition, and probably you didn't knew half of them. And that was bad, because as you start, you have like huge framework, and you are using like 5% of that framework. For example, if you are building console command in Symfony 2 standard edition, that's like you have too much things inside that you are not using. So Fabien Fotencier on his blog, he said that he, as developer, he wants something to start small with not many dependencies, but also he wants to be able to grow as application grows. So actually he said that perfect developer's experience is start small, be able to grow, but actually build a framework that is amazing fit for your project. Every project is different, so we are not using same components. We are not using even the framework in the same way for each project. So what is the idea in this? It's actually to have composition over inheritance. Distribution system was a good idea, as I said you, but it didn't work. The only popular and useful distribution was Symfony standard distribution, and most of the projects, like we have Symfony REST distribution, something like that. I never used that, to be honest. I built a lot of REST APIs, even back in that time. I never used that. So we needed something better, and Symfony 4 is actually answer on that. So Symfony 4 starts with very low number of dependencies. It starts with almost nothing, and it's micro framework. Okay. You start by composing your application. If you need database like Doctrine, you will just put Doctrine inside your application. If you need like traditional web app, you will add forms and everything else that you need. It's based on microkernel and contains 70% less code than Symfony 3 application. And that's one of the reasons why Symfony 4 is actually maybe the fastest PHP framework at the moment of these most popular ones. Of course, there are some casualties. We don't need Silex anymore because Symfony is doing same job as Silex. Was someone using Silex back then? Does someone still use Silex? Okay, no. That's cool. So basically Symfony killed Silex, literally. So yeah, we don't need Silex anymore because Symfony can deliver the same job on the same level. Okay, fun fact. Composer started as conversation of some plug and play system for bundles, for some plugins, let's call it in that way. But actually nobody used that in that way because we had the same process all the time. Require some package, then copy paste entire configuration thing, and then if you don't need that plugin, okay, that bundle or component or whatever, you need to do it again and remove everything. That was very annoying and that was very time consuming. And solution on that is called Symfony Flux. So Symfony Flux is just Composer plugin. It downloads the package in the same way as Composer, but it does some more things. It's actually auto-configures configuration of your package that you need. We have two types of the receipts. I will show you what are receipts that, but we have official and the private receipts, and I will show you later on the slides what they are. So how Symfony Flex works? It's actually very easy. Once you require something, for example, mailer, Composer asks Symfony Flex server, do you have a receipt for this? If server says no, nothing happens. You still do things manually. But if server says yes, then some additional logic will be executed. Like some configuration files will be copy-pasted, some variables will be set, and things like that. Receipts are very, very easy. For example, this is a receipt for Swift mailer. So what it said just copy from the receipt, copy configuration to configuration directory, and then you have some environment variables, depends on the transport which you want to use, like how you will set up your environment variables. It can do some more things like add things to the git ignore and other things. Of course, you are committing the receipt, the configuration that you get, you are committing that to your repositories, because you will change some defaults and other things. Regarding receipts, we have two repositories. As I said, we have contributed receipts and we have official receipts. Official receipts are maintained by Symfony core team, and other receipts can be contributed by anyone. And if you go to this flexsymfony.com site, you can get the list of all receipts that exist. Of course, you can create your own. Okay. Is there anyone who didn't use Flex until now? Okay, few people. I'm glad to see that more and more people is using the new things. Not anymore new, like Symfony is a year and a half here, Symfony 4. Okay, so how to start with Symfony 4? It's very, very easy actually. At the beginning we had distribution, we downloaded the zip, then we extract it or we clone it from the Git repository. Then in Symfony 2 we have some demo application, we remove it and things like that. Then we had some Symfony installer, which was not very popular, so we mostly continued to use Composer. But today we have still two ways. One is Composer, so you can Composer create project Symfony skeleton, Symfony website skeleton, or Symfony demo. First one is almost empty. Second one is similar or almost the same as Symfony Standard Edition, and demo is if you want to learn and if you want to play. But there is actually a better way. There is something new and it's written in Go. It's a Symfony client which has built-in server, and it helps you manage your Symfony development. So basically what you can do, you can start a new project. It supports multiple PHP versions. It supports HTTPS and HTTP2 server. It can check some security things, and it really, really easy integrates with Symfony Cloud if you are using Symfony Cloud. So how to start project with Symfony client? It's very easy. You just need to type in a terminal Symfony new my project, and you will get empty version. If you want full website skeleton version, you will type Symfony new full my project. When you want to start server, you just need to type Symfony serve and you are up and running. It works on Linux, on Mac, it works on Windows also. So it's very, very nice tool. I have a small demo to show you how it actually works. So you can see, I hope that you can read in end rows. So basically you just start new project. Also Flex can cache your packages, so you don't need to download them each time. And my project is up and running. So basically that's it. Just Symfony new, name of the project, Symfony serve, and I'm up and running. Okay, regarding the new folder organization in Symfony 4, I think it's more natural comparing to Symfony 3 or 2. So basically we have a config folder where entire configuration goes. Even if you want to map entities using using XML or YAML, you will put it in config generation. And entire your okay, so everything goes to the config, and we don't have web folder anymore. We have public folder now, which is like way more natural, and we don't have many controllers. We have only one controller, which is index.php, and we control that controller to the environment variables. I will show them later. And your entire PHP code goes to src folder. That's where you will spend most of your time. In a var folder we have cache and log. Vendors is obviously what is it, and we have environment variables. I will show them later what they are. And there is one more thing, it's Symfony log. Symfony log tracks the receipts that you installed using Symfony Flags. Okay, regarding environment variables, configuration to the YAML or XML files are gone, and this is where more flexible way for using configuration of your application. Like, do you want to use development, do you want to output errors and other things, or you just want to have production mode with no showing errors and other things, including cache setup and everything. This is how you use it. You have .env file which you commit, and you never put secrets inside it. That is like template for your development and deployment process. You have .env local, which is your local configuration of the project, where you will put your local things, and you never commit that. You have .env test, which you commit because you want obviously to have tests up and running. And you have .env production file, which you never commit because some secrets will go inside it. And that's the thing that you need to remember, and that's the reason why I put it, because I see so many times in a GitHub that people are committing like access to the database, servers, and everything else. You can just search it on Google and you will find a bunch of access to the databases. Okay, bundleless application. Who was or still using bundles? Okay, so I use them, and when I switched from 1.4 to Symfony 2, bundles were like, why we need this? They are like, I don't know what to do with them. After a while I got used on them because it was like easy organization of the code. But literally we don't need them. They are adding one more layer of complexity to our applications, so we don't need them because we can organize applications to the folders inside one namespace. So bundles are not gone entirely. If you want to create some third-party plugin bundle, call it whatever, you will still use bundle, you will build bundle, and you will put it in an open source community. But for your project where you will probably never reuse the code, you don't need bundles. There is no need for them. So Symfony 4 is not supporting bundles for development of your application, so everything goes inside src folder under app namespace. And this reduces really perceived complexity of your project. Auto-wiring. Is there someone who is not familiar with auto-wiring concept? Okay. So just in short, because you are all familiar with, so auto-wiring is actually reading full qualification class name, use that as an ID, and then create services, and you don't need to do configuration manually. That's in short word. In Symfony 4, everything is pre-configured for you. So auto-wiring by default is turned on. You can turn it off if you want, but I don't see reason in most cases for doing that. And of course, you need to tag some folders as controllers or some other things, and you want to exclude some things for not making services from them. For example, migrations, kernel tests, and other things. Only one thing that you need to remember from this slide is that container get service is that, so all the services are private now, so you need to inject them. And this is simple example how it works, so we don't need to specify anything, we just need to put the type of the class that we want, actually class name in a constructor, everything will be injected by itself. If we want to debug auto-wiring, there is console command for that, so if you are not understanding what is happening in some moment, you can go there and check it. One of my favorite things is few new components in Symfony 4. I consider them more as a tools. Why? Because they are allowing us to do some work more easily. Like, all applications have emails, right? And sending emails was not ever easy task. There will always be problem. Is it connected to the Gmail server? Is it connected to the SendGrid server? Did I send it well? And other things. So in Symfony 4.3, Symfony Mailer was introduced, and it is more I will say it's easier way to send the emails, to handle the emails. The only thing that you need to do is compose a require email, and this is the way how you are using it. So basically you have mailer, and then you create object which is mail. You set up this who is sending to who, you set up the body. Of course you can set up attachments, you can add templates and other things, and that's it. The mail is sent. Of course, mail can be sent immediately or can be sent later, or it can use different servers. And if you want to use, for example, SendGrid, Amazon, Gmail, MailChimp, whatever, you just need to use different packages. And this is example what can be used out of the box. So if you download this, you will get a receipt that will configure your variables exactly for using these services. So it will save a bunch of time in way of configuring and testing and other things. Also, you can send them asynchronously. So if you call here this mail send, the mail will send immediately. But if you want to improve performance, we can leverage messenger component, and we can set up that mail will be sent, that will send some message to the RabbitMQ, and that will consume later. So the next tool or component that is my favorite, I will say, in Symfony 4 is Symfony Messenger, actually. Who is using this component? Okay, few people. Who never heard about this component? Okay, few people. So message components helps applications send and receive messages from other applications via message queues. It's very, very easy to implement, and this is the basic concept behind the Symfony Messenger. If you ever worked with RabbitMQ, this is probably familiar to you. So we have sender, which is responsible for serializing and sending the messages. We have receiver, who is receiving, deserializing, and forwarding messages to the handler. And we have handler, who is responsible for handling that message, to do some logic. And we still have middleware and envelope, which can do some things to change a message or what will happen through the process. How it works in a Symfony. If you download the Symfony Messenger component, it will be configured to you, but it will not be configured to use asynchronous way. It will be configured to execute immediately. You need to define your message and what is the payload of the message. Once some events occurred, you just need to dispatch this message to the bus handler, and then you need to have handler that will do some logic with that message. So let's repeat. You need to have a message which is simple class, like simple nothing class, which has only some properties that you need to fill, and that properties transport your message. Then you need to dispatch that message somewhere, and then you have handler which consumes that message and do some whatever logic, sending email, do calculation, downloads or uploads, not downloads or something like that, like expensive operation. And if you want, for example, to use RabbitMQ instead of immediately responding for this message, it's very easy configuration. You just need to change the way, change settings for your transportation, and everything works out of the box. So basically you can have message queues implemented in Symfony in literally 10 minutes, even if you never saw the Symfony message component. There is a bunch of more possibilities, but that is talk for itself what you can do with Symfony message component. Last tool from the Symfony 4 that did huge improvement in web development in Symfony Webpack and Core. So we had a static bundle in previous versions which never worked well, actually. It was very hard to maintain that, especially if you have like front-end developers who are not familiar with the Symfony. Then it was like not natural for them, because they didn't understand when to dump, when to install, how to do that, and that static bundle, to be honest, never followed the development of front-end technologies. Now we have Symfony Webpack and Core, which is like high-level API, which integrates Webpack into your application. It gives you clean and powerful API for bundling JavaScript modules, pre-processing CSS files, compiling, manifying asset, whatever you need for a front-end website. It's also very easy to implement. Basically, you need to require it, then you get receipt, set up everything, and you just start writing JS and CSS code. So basically, you will get this configuration. As you can see here, you will get the folders, app CSS and app.js, and you need to put your code there. On the building of your application, it will be automatically packed and prepared for production. One more thing that I want to mention is not part of the Symfony core, but it's built on Symfony. It's API platform. If you want to build APIs, this is definitely the way to go in a Symfony 4, even before Symfony 4. This is now official actually API for Symfony framework, so we are no longer using FOSS-REST bundle as official one or unofficial, whatever it was, but we are using API platform. We did yesterday a workshop on this, and it's really easy to start, and it's really easy to build even complex APIs with API platform. How many of you is used or using or consider using? Okay, that's, I will say, a low number of the people, and I hope that number will increase in the future. But check this, this is very amazing. Documentation is very well for starting fast. You have on GitHub also a few workshops that you can follow, so it's very, very easy. Regarding performance in Symfony, Symfony 4 was the fastest version of Symfony ever, and I hope that trend will continue in the future. Symfony 2.3 was the second release in Symfony 2.0, and I already told you that Symfony 3.4 was the slowest. Probably all these deprecated features were one of the reasons, and Symfony 4 is almost 3 times faster than Laravel 5.5. That's like true, but this, you need to consider that this is tested on Hello World, and Symfony doesn't have anything in there, let's call it starting point, so that's there is no dependencies actually, so it's still really fast. But even if you put almost the same stack, Symfony is still a little bit faster. So that's a great improvement, I will say. Regarding release process of the Symfony, this is something that we as a Symfony community should be very proud. Like, everything is very stable. Community is amazing. We have great documentation. We have very smart people who are contributing, building amazing tools. For example, Symfony mailer is component that is built on the feedback from the users. It's not built, let's build like new mailer component. The mails were a problem, and there was a bunch of feedback around that, and we needed better components, so we got it. What I want to say here is that I'm glad to see here that half of you is using Symfony 4, so literally my talk here is partially useless. But like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, nobody used that, and I assume the people waited for long-term support version, which will be the next one. But long-term support version will go out every 2 years. There is no reason for waited, because the upgrades from the version to the version, it's very easy, and you have support for every minor version for 6 months. So even if you are starting a new project, start with the latest version of the Symfony, and every 6 months just upgrade it, and it does will save time and the money in the end, and it will be much easier for you. Okay, so as you can see, it is planned, and you can be sure about release dates of each new version of the Symfony. How to upgrade to Symfony 4? It is possible, it's not complex. As I stated already, Symfony 3.4 has exact same features as Symfony 4, plus some deprecated code. So if you want to upgrade from some version 3.x to 4, upgrade first to 3.4 and then switch to 4.0 and then up. It will take some time because you need to reorganize your code to the new code structure, but it's not such a big problem. Okay, current version is Symfony 4.3.4, and next one that will be released in 2 months, I think end of November, will be 4.4, and that will be official Symfony long-term support version. Regarding some features and how many things is happening inside the Symfony community and Symfony framework, I have a small video when 4.3 was released, so you can see how huge is the list of the features that was implemented in minor version. This is amazing. Like, the people who are developing framework, they are doing amazing work here. What is the Symfony spirit, Symfony 4 spirit? Actually, the Symfony 4 spirit is that you focus on doing business, developing business features, and not thinking so much about framework or consider framework as something that's stopping you build any kind of application you want. So you have, for example, you have built-in great message error system, which will predict anything that's happening inside your framework and will give you some output that you can fix it as soon as it is possible. I think with Symfony 4 we really achieved that we can focus on building framework that fits for our project, and that we can focus on building amazing, fast application for end users, which should be the most important thing. And when I was preparing for this talk, this title was a year ago, but actually it's almost 2 years ago. So it's a year and little more than a half. So Symfony 4 is really, from my personal opinion, is an amazing framework, and it's very easy to work with. For example, if you have Symfony 4 application and you want to add REST API, you just need to require API platform, and you have everything set up and you can expose your APIs. Flex is an amazing thing. It definitely changed and improved how entire PHP world works, not just Symfony, I will say. And I think Symfony is again pushing limits inside our industry. If you want framework, it's amazing. If you want a huge monolithic application, it's amazing. If you want to build microservices, it's a good. So yeah, I think Symfony is, for any of us, it's no longer any kind of limitation. We just need to learn what we have as a components, as a tools, and we need to set up everything together. And one more thing is that Symfony 5 is coming. So yeah, every 2 years the new major version will be released. So we are almost 2 years to Symfony 4. So in November, end of November, we will get Symfony 5, and you can be sure about release date. And we will get on the same date, I think, long-term support for 4.4. So yeah, we are very close to that. I'm not expecting Symfony 5 to be something exciting as Symfony 4, but it will remove some deprecated features from Symfony 4. It will clean up the code base, so we can for sure expect some performance improvements in that framework. And one last note for the end, start small. Start composing your application, start thinking about what you are putting in your code base, because it's not framework actually what is slow, it's actually the code that we are writing and the things that we are using, but we are not thinking about that. Like if you take some package and if you don't know what is inside and you say this is slow, check it, fix it, take a part that you need and improve performance. And think about that little more. I think we all as developers, we need to think about that. We have great developers experience, but sometimes we forgot about other important things. Thank you very much.